What's up, guys? This is Bumpkins, and I'm here today with another spotlight video, this time on a book called Post Americana. I'll be covering issues number 1 and number 2. So if you guys don't know, my spotlight videos are intended to just kind of shine a light on stories that I think are pretty interesting, stories that you might find interesting as well, or maybe somebody who wants to get into comics but doesn't know what to read. These are just stories that kind of tickle my fancy. These are definitely not spec videos. You'll never see a spec video on my channel. And these aren't even really review videos, because I just want to shine a light on books that I like. If it's a book that I don't really like, I'm probably just not even going to bother talking about it. But today, like I said, Post Americana number 1 and 2, and I waited until issue number 2 because admittedly, I wasn't completely grabbed by just the first issue. So the first issue came out about a month ago, and then issue number 2 just came out last Wednesday. I think it was January 27th. And admittedly, it wasn't until the second issue that I was really hooked. The first issue I found it was interesting, and I wanted to see what happened, but I was still a little bit iffy about it. And that happens a lot with comics. The first issue, you're not quite sure what to make of it, but by the time the second, third, maybe the fourth issue rolls around, you get a better idea of what the story is, and you know if you're gonna like it or not. So, Post Americana is written and drawn by a gentleman named Steve Skroce. I hope I'm pronouncing. I don't know if it's Skroce or Scroce. I'm not sure. Steve Skroce, who I most know from as the guy who took over penciling duties from Mark Bagley after he left his legendary run on Amazing Spider-Man back in the 90s. The Spider-Man that I literally grew up with. Mark Bagley eventually left around issue 420, maybe around there. And then Steve Skroce took over for him. So that's where I recognize him from. But I think he left comics for a while and went on to do some storyboarding for movies and TV shows, things like that. But this story is a post-apocalyptic story. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic America. I don't exactly know how far in the future it is, but it's based on what everything is shown in here, based on the state of the country in here. I have to imagine it's a pretty good while after our time, because there's a bunch of different factions. There's basically what's left of America, which is basically holed up in this giant hollowed out mountain. That's just one. That's just kind of like their hangar and their armory. They are trying to, or their plan is to build a new America. But as you can expect, if you kind of think about like Mad Max or something like that, where there's different factions of different groups spread out around the country. There's another group of ne'er-do-wells that we meet in this issue that are just kind of unsavory characters. There's a group of cannibals that we meet in issue number 2. So it's definitely a book like that. But the story, these issues focus on a character named Carolyn, who you can see here on the cover of number 1, and she's also takes center stage on the cover of number 2. And then the gentleman's name there, his name is Mike. So Carolyn is sort of a mercenary slash bounty hunter, if you will. She has been hired to do a job in the first issue, and she does do the job. I won't tell you what the job is because I don't want to spoil too much. But, and then Mike is a member of this group that is sort of rebelling against who you would think would be the good guys, the group that's the leftover Americans that want to rebuild America. You would think, okay, that's a great idea. Well, we don't see too much of it, but we learn here and there that the guy that's leading, the guy that has anointed himself as the new president, in Mike's own words, says that he's a psychopath. And he has, basically his plan is to wipe out all the other groups of people in the country to shape the country in his own fashion. Now, the group that Mike is part of, they are in the same mountain with the rest of everybody, but the inside of the mountain is basically, it's almost like a big city. So you can imagine that inside of a city, and here's a good picture of it too from later in the story. It's a holographic picture, but you can see basically this is a holographic layout of where the general population is living. It's basically a big bunker that was built to withstand an apocalypse. But as it was explained in this issue, in the first issue, the original American government that was in place at the time the apocalypse happened, all the officials, I guess the president and all those guys, like, they didn't make it. They didn't make it to the bunker. And that's why this group is now kind of stuck with this psychopath as the quote-unquote president. I don't know if I think he actually refers to himself as the president of New America. So it's basically as big of as a city inside this hollowed out mountain. And Mike here is a group that does live in here, but is sort of a group of rebels that want to shut down their plans to wipe out the rest of the country and remake it in their own image. So he is trying to get out. He's trying to get these plans out to his allies. We haven't met his allies. We don't know who they are. But he tells Carolyn when they meet that he's trying to get these plans out to his allies. They have weapons and resources that can help take down these group of people who want to eviscerate the country and reshape it in their own image. We don't learn a lot about Carolyn's past yet. Like I said, we do know she's sort of a mercenary that gets hired to do certain jobs. We do get a one page of her kind of flashing back, and I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want to spoil anything. But we do learn about her. One thing about her is the group that she was with, they were all wiped out. And we sort of learn who was the cause of that, but we don't know the details around it, so I'm assuming that that's going to come in a later story. But yeah, this first issue involves Mike and his rebel group sort of destroying a lot of the larger American group's weapons and planes and tanks and all that stuff. He's trying to get away. Like I said, he's trying to get these plans to his friends outside. He falls in line, or he actually is kind of sort of captured by this other group of unsavory characters. That's when he meets Carolyn. They deal with that situation that they get in, and then at the end of the first issue, they find themselves both captured by a group of cannibals, which then leads into issue number 2, which involves their whole adventure trying to get away from this group of cannibals. And one thing I'll say is this book is gory. If you have read The Walking Dead, you're familiar with the level of gore and violence in that book. This is very much the same. So like I said, this issue is basically just deals with Mike and Carolyn trying to get away from the cannibals and then proceeding with their mission. It's a story of it's kind of I wouldn't say buddy cop, but it's one of those stories where two characters meet and they reluctantly join forces, even though they sort of have different objectives or different missions. They still kind of have the same goals, so they form an uneasy alliance and they set off on the rest of their adventure, and that's where issue number 2 ends. So some of that was kind of vague, but I don't want to spoil too much in any of these videos. But like I said, the first issue I thought was interesting, but it wasn't until the second issue that I was sold on the story completely and said, okay, yeah, I want to see where these characters are going. I want to learn more about Carolyn's backstory. I want to see Mike meet up with his allies. I want to see if they're able to take down this evil president guy. Here he is right on the first page of the first issue. So he's basically sort of the head of the Americans, and I know that sounds weird to say, oh, the Americans are bad, but it's this group of officials that are in this hollowed out mountain. Like I said, they want to reshape the country and they want to wipe out any group that gets in their way, and so that's what kind of makes them the bad guys. So yeah, this was an interesting story. I was hooked after a couple issues, and I really want to see where Mike and Carolyn's adventures take them next. Like I said, I want to learn their backstories. I want to see if they succeed. I want to see more factions of people. So we met the cannibals. We met the other group of unsavory characters. I don't know what else to call them because they don't really have a name. It's just they're not cannibals, but they're kind of maybe scavengers. and something happens to them. It's just really interesting. So it's a really interesting world that they're building. I like post-apocalyptic stories. They can become a little bit tiresome if you have too many, but it's been a while since I've really read a good one, especially one like this that takes place quite a bit in the future like this one does. So I am sold on this book. You might like it as well if you like post-apocalyptic stories. If you like things sort of like The Walking Dead. Of course, this isn't zombies or anything like that, but this, in Walking Dead, you could call it post-apocalyptic, but it wasn't far future apocalypse. But if you like that kind of thing, if you like, this is going to sound weird, but if you like violent comics, if you like gore, sort of not horror. It's not horror, but it's more of like a thriller kind of thing. If you like those kinds of stories and you like the post-apocalyptic stuff, definitely try out Post Americana. This is an Image title. I don't know if it's a limited series or an ongoing series. If it's a limited series, I'm sure it's going to be at least 5 issues, but I don't even know how they could tell the story they need to tell in just 5 issues. So we'll see how long it goes. But yes, I am sold on this. So if it sounds interesting to you, maybe give it a shot. See if you like it. So guys, that is it for this spotlight video. Again, just wanted to shine a light on a story that I found interesting. You may find it interesting. If you try it out and you don't like it, that very well is possible too. But I just wanted to put something out there and give you an idea of if you're looking for something new to read, looking for a good story. In my opinion, this is one, and your mileage may vary. So guys, that's it for this video. If you like this video or any of the other videos on this channel, maybe hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a sarcastic thumbs up. If nothing else, leave me a comment below. Let me know, have you read Post Americana? Or what other comics do you think have a good story? Maybe let me know. I can do a video on it. Even if I haven't read it, I will read it if you recommend it. Just let me know what you're reading, what you're finding interesting, what you're liking. And thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.